What's up? I'm Drew. You may not know me, but you should know my next guest. He's a restaurateur, a farmer, and he was even a judge. You probably know him from his gas station food reviews.
I'm gonna give it an 8.3.
That's right, I'm here to visit Stafford Shurden. It's below 80 degrees, which can mean only one thing in Mississippi: fall's coming, which also means it's harvest time. So I put on my Built Basics coastal overshirt, hopefully it won't get too dusty. Came all the way up to Drew, Mississippi. That's right, in my home state, there's a town I get to share a name with. It's also the home of Archie Manning. Who dat? Drew dat. I'm gonna hang out with Stafford. He's gonna show me how to live off the land. We're gonna talk about everything from business, farming, history, culture, passion, and have a blast doing it. So stay tuned for a very special episode 5 of Driving with Drew in Drew.
Your rotor is already in gear. So all you got to do is engage your header now. Let's speed your motor up all the way. Push it farther, there you go. Yeah, go and push it the rest of the way. It'll go off. There you go.
Okay.
All right, you may have to hit that resume button again. Let's see here. All right, you should be ready. Just push.
Let me do my job there and get that camera.
Okay.
I know how to do that. All right.
So we're cutting beans.
We are cutting beans. So this is a special episode of Driving with Drew in Drew on a combine with Stafford Shurden. How are you, Stafford?
I am nervous.
Me too. Do you let anyone that comes to Drew, Mississippi just drive your combine?
I usually charge him for this. I'd like Tom Sawyer in the fence, you know.
Yeah.
This is work. We consider this work. I usually pay people to do this.
Yeah, this is insane. This is cool. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're a restaurateur, you're a farmer. Let's start with the farming since that's what we're doing right now.
So I grew up on a cotton farm here in Drew. And it's exactly what you think it is. I grew up chopping cotton. We talked earlier, one of my first jobs was we were clearing land back in those days. I mean, I like to think I don't look 51, so I can remember the 70s and Jimmy Carter's presidency and but we were clearing land in the late 70s and 80s. Growing up on a farm was awesome though, dude. I loved it.
What's something that people don't know about growing up on a farm?
I think there's definitely a sense of community. Maybe people do know that. People romanticize farming there, and that's rightfully so. Like, it's something that definitely is kind of addictive. A wise man, I got a friend that's an economist, and he said if you farm as a way of life, it's a terrible living. But if you farm as a living, it's an incredible way of life. If you farm as a business, exactly what he said, it's an incredible way of life. Maybe the thing that people don't realize is it is a business. Even if you're a family farm, you know, we hear all this talk about corporate farms are crowding out family farms. There's some truth to that, but also, you know, family farmers have to treat it like a business and not a family farm, or you're not going to be here. And so it's highly into technology. We talked about that. I mean, you look at what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We have to know a little bit of everything. We're meteorologists and bookkeepers and accountants, and we're more than just farmers, more than just putting the seed in the ground. I spend a lot of time in the office. That's the other thing I think people don't know. I spend a lot of time in my office trying to figure out how to make this work.
Well, man, this is really interesting. Somebody who, you also have a restaurant, Stafford Market and Deli. You're literally farm to table.
Yeah, you know, Anthony Bourdain's got a great line about farm to table. He says that it's kind of a misnomer because everything in the restaurant comes from a farm.
Yeah.
But we don't use, so we're cutting soybeans right now. So the only thing I can say that we use for soybeans is the oil we fry the French fries in. You know? But the rice, and we hadn't grown rice in a couple years. We're going to grow a good bit next year. But the rice is one of those things that our neighbor actually packages his own rice and sells it directly off the farm. And that's all we use is Mike Wagner's rice from Two Brooks Farms. It's an incredible product. What's Robert's?
He's on the extra table board, I
Extra
think.
table.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Extra table. Robert.
He's got a good head of hair, actually.
He really does. It's a magnificent head of hair.
It's luxurious.
Yeah. And so he just farms. They just farm right over there. We passed some of what. As a matter of fact, when we were coming out here to get on the combine, we were looking at the folks dumping at the grain bins. That was Mike dumping his rice right there.
Oh, cool.
So he's got some stuff here. And then he's got the Two Brooks farm where a lot of the specialty rice comes from that. But some of it's literally, I tell people, this rice was grown across the turn road. And so that is kind of cool to know. It's not that the other stuff doesn't come from a farm, but it's nice to know where it came from.
Yeah.
It gives you a peace of mind in a way.
So how did you come to open a restaurant? That's
I'm stupid.
you're insane, right?
Yeah, I'm stupid. So in somewhere around 2000, I started farming. My first crop on my own was 2000. So we just got done harvesting my 25th crop farming.
Oh wow!
And
Congratulations.
after that first crop, thank you. After that first crop, though, I got really involved in a group that was trying to help revitalize downtown Drew, and I got pretty swept up in it. We were doing some cool things, and we really were. We were doing some really cool stuff. But my feeling was doing it through a 501c3 was great and all, but if you can't show people that there's profit to be made in our downtown, if we couldn't do it, who else was going to do it? So I approached a guy about buying 2 buildings in Drew, not really having a plan. 2 years later, he flags me down in the middle of the street and says, "Do you still want to buy those buildings?" And I said, "If you'll give them to me for what I offered you." And he said, "I'm ready to get out of it." And I bought these 2 buildings, and I kind of had in my mind at that point, and this sounds funny, but I was a huge Emerald Live fan. This dates me a little bit, because early 2000s, my wife and I would watch Emerald Live every night, and then grew up eating my grandma's cooking, and I was just like, just love food. So with zero restaurant experience, I go, I'm going to open a restaurant. That's what I'm going to do.
Famous last words, dude.
And now 20 years later, here we are. It took a couple years to get the building and all in good enough shape to call it a restaurant. And we started out kind of as with one idea of what a restaurant was. And, over the years, we talked about Robert just a minute ago, but I've gotten a lot of mentors in this business that have steered me in the right direction. Because 20 years ago, how we're still open, I'll be honest, I have no idea, because I was so dumb. I had no clue what was going on. But yeah, 20 years later, and now next week I'll be in Vegas actually teaching a class on food service. And I started calling all these people like Robert, and I was like, hey, well, what do I need to do? Help somebody out. And so everybody was really nice and helped me out. And
Do I need to lift this up?
yeah, you can just hit the plus button, the plus right there, and it'll lift it right on.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, am I a farmer?
Yeah, you're farming now, dude.
Crazy, man.
So here comes the hard part, which is turning around.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do here.
Just loop out, and we'll just get back in these beans, and I'll come back and straighten to crook it up later.
Will I get stuck going in there?
No, this is nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, these things are made for the poor condition.
Yeah, see, I see mud like this, and I go, oh, my truck might do all right.
Your truck would be fine. It's not as bad as it looks.
But it does look like a problem. Ooh, man. This thing's responsive.
It's responsive in reverse, much more so than the last combine I had, which, we could talk about that too.
Yeah, we were supposed to shoot 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, before that what was the first hurricane? Was it Irene?
Francine, right?
Francine.
And then Helene.
So Francine comes through, and I'm trying to get through harvesting, and you and I were going to shoot like that day before, pretty much. I sent you a real nice picture of my combine on fire burning up.
Yeah, that freaked me out.
But look, I was driving it. You think it didn't?
Well, I know it freaked
dude.
you out, but I was super excited about the shoot, and then I was like, I'm just happy you're alive. Like, That's insane.
We're in this big hurry trying to get done, and I was thinking that I was going to get kind of done before the hurricane got there, really close, because I was like, hey, it's going to be our last big day.
Yeah.
When you get here, and then I turn around on the end, and you see the dust behind us. I mean, it's insane. And I really couldn't tell because of the dust, but the combine was actually on fire. And
it was smoke, it wasn't dust. Holy
well,
smokes.
it was both. And at one point, I turned around and I said, something just doesn't quite look right. And I got off the combine, it was a little too far gone. So I tried to drive the combine out of the field. So I'm driving it, knowing it's on fire, flames coming around the side of the cab.
Oh my God.
And at the last minute, I drove it as far as I thought I could, and it's still running. Cut the combine off, jump off the combine.
Wow.
Yep. It was kind of insane.
That's crazy, man. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
I don't think there was any real danger of me not being okay. It went, pretty fast, I guess, but it also, I knew it was on fire at that point.
Well, I'd say something like this, even as cushy as it, I mean, we're in the middle. We have air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
We got, radio. We got all kinds of stuff. Life's easier than it used to be. But farming the land, I feel like, would be a great reminder of, that's why I was asking you farm to table. Even though you're not eating any of your crops or serving any of your crops, it's like a pretty good reminder of how things are actually made, how things actually get done. Like, these are the kind of jobs that I'm a YouTuber. No one has to have that.
Well,
it's nice, but it's not, you have to have farmers. You have to have all this. And this has to work that has to be done.
You can't eat a podcast?
Yeah, you can't eat a podcast. Oh, man. Yeah, no one on a plane in an emergency situation asks for someone to say, "What's up, guys?" They ask for a doctor.
Yeah. No, there's something to be said for that. There is this feeling from this job that you're doing something important. And even prepared food is a luxury.
Yeah.
The restaurant business too is also kind of struggling right now. And I was talking to one of my restaurant friends the other day, and he has a high-end steakhouse, and he says, what I do is a luxury. People go, well, you're feeding people, everybody's got to eat. He said, but they don't have to eat steaks. They can eat hamburger steak. They don't have to come here and spend that kind of money. This you can't live without.
Yeah, no joke.
And I know there's a big push away from that. People would consider this commercial monocropping, and there's a big push away from that. But you can't everybody can't right now. We don't know enough with the acres we have available to farm and feed the world through small crop farming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you need the commercial while we figure that other out. I think that's what we all understand we have to go to. Nobody cares about this land more than the people that are out here working on it. We really do. Mike Wagner, we were talking about a minute ago, is one of the great examples of that. He's a great ecological type farmer. He cares about the land. And so he's kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of this. But, guys like me are watching him and going, is it working or not? So we're moving that way. But until we figure it out where we can feed the world like that, this is the kind of farming that we need to. Dude, there's 9 billion people in the world. In the 70s, it was like, what, 4, 3.5? I mean, it's doubled it's doubled in the 50 years that I've been alive. So yeah, it's an important thing we're doing.
Well, I ask you because I'm sure you have a different appreciation for the world. Like, I have a lot of buddies that went and served, overseas, and when they came back, they had a different appreciation for things I took for granted,
Sure.
And so anytime you do something that's really hard, I think people are scared of the hard thing, but the viewpoint you get from it is always really interesting. And I wonder what your viewpoint is. Most people will know you for the gas station food reviews, and I want to talk about that, but you are also a judge. And man, I imagine you saw a side of society that most people don't really even know about, and you were like knee deep in it. So what was your time as a judge like?
It's the way my brain works. I don't really think that psychologically I was set to do that for 25 years. I did it for 14, and it really weighed on me.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to judge that doesn't care, but you also want to judge that once the decision is made, they can walk away and not worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they mentally are going to be unfit, and it just got to a point for me seeing all of that. I'll give you a great example that's very sad but very true. When I started in the judiciary, it was 2006, and Mississippi was #1 in the nation of women dying at the hands of their significant other.
What?
And I had no idea how widespread domestic violence was until I became a judge, because I didn't grow up around that.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Now, I can tell you with a little bit of pride that the state of Mississippi has done a lot to curb that. We're no longer #1 in that, thank goodness. But man, just seeing cases like that, and people that whether or not they were literally trapped, they felt like they were trapped, and you just get into these sad situations, and yeah, that stuff weighed on me, dude. It was really hard.
Jeez.
Tony Robbins has got a great line. He said, success leaves clues. So does failure. And you see the same people, but with different faces and bodies. You know what I mean? Yeah, I got to the point where, contrary to what you see on television, judges rarely talk. They mostly listen. I like to talk. You know what I mean? But it was a great skill to have to hone while I was judge, to learn to listen. And you do learn a lot about people. Some of it I didn't want to know, but I mean, I can see somebody would come in the courtroom and I knew what they were going to say before they said it so many times. And then there were good days, man. I did a lot of cool marriages. I saw a lot of people get married. So I saw a lot of people on their best day. So there were fun times. But for me, I was just like, psychologically, for me to be, have a good life, I don't think I need to continue in this. I always promised myself when I got that job. Well, I got that job because my dad was judge, and when he passed away, they appointed me to it. Then I ran for it. And so I wanted to make sure that I never would do it just because my dad had done it, and I never would do it for money. And at the end there, the last time I ran, I went, yeah, this is running this course. This is my last time. And I actually wrote a letter to the editor saying, this is my last time. Yeah, I'm not doing this again, and kind of painted myself into a corner. Yeah. But that's the hardest. To me, this is much easier. Even on the worst day, when I come home stained in diesel and grease because the combine is not working properly and we're working on it, that's still a better day than, for me, the last 4 years of being on the judiciary.
Well, I imagine you just learn a lot about people, for better, for worse. Yeah. But then to the gas station reviews, man, you see how I'm doing this nonchalantly? Just pick the blade up. I'm faking it till I make it, Stafford. But with your gas station reviews, I imagine you learn a lot about people as well, because you're going all across the Southeast. It's blown up.
It has.
Really, I'm green with jealous rage. You've had
you do better on YouTube than I ever thought about doing, though. For some reason, I don't do good on YouTube.
Your stuff is it's accessible, and I think it's perfect for the social media age because it's gas station food. You've made what is a stop to a destination an actual destination.
That's exactly right. Hey, when you get into this row of beans, I'm gonna come back to that thought. Yeah, go on and stop, throw the auger out, and then you can take the header out of gear. And when he pulls under, you just hit. When he gets under, we'll unload.
Okay.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of pressure.
I know, it's a lot going on.
This is what matters most right here. I press this one button. I don't press it right now.
No, we don't want to press it right now. So yeah, the gas station thing kind of slipped up on me when I stopped being judged. We'd actually talked about this. What am I going to do? Because when you're judged, you live life as a judge. You're not just judge on the bench. When people see you in your Walmart, you're representing the state of Mississippi as a judge. So I had tried to do some things through social media, and I had a couple of people say, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that as a judge. Nothing bad, wrong, or anything. It's just and you're good to go, man.
This button.
That's it.
Press it.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, engage.
And there we go. We're dumping.
Oh, look at that.
And so after I was judged and I could do anything I wanted, we said, well, I want to use social media to promote the restaurant. So the initial idea actually was I was going to go compare our fried chicken, which I thought was pretty good, to other people's fried chicken. And we made a list. It was all gas stations, except for Gus's in Memphis, and maybe Lorman store or something like that, And I was like, well, maybe I should just be reviewing gas station food, because that is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then one day, my daughter and I, we were driving to Indianola, which is our county seat, to buy a tag for my truck. And I said, hey, let's stop at Double Quick and get some chicken livers. She'd never had chicken livers, and she wanted to try some. And I walked out and said, hey, let's film it. Let the tailgate down, just not even thinking about it. I just needed a place to set it. And I was like, let's just call it the tailgate review. And we filmed it, and the rest is kind of history. But what I thought was going to happen was I was going to go to these gas stations and kind of show them a little something about what we did. Well, you're good now. And what ended up happening was I started going to gas stations that were knocking it out of the park. So, 1 minute I'm going to review, so throttle back and put your header back in gear. Oh yeah, we got to put our auger in too. Got it. So now I'm going to these gas stations that are, in a lot of cases, is running a better food service operation than a lot of restaurants.
Yeah.
And I start kind of, without even thinking about it, going, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to use that in my restaurant. And then in 2022, I'm real unhappy with the quality of what we're putting out of the kitchen. And there's COVID has a lot to do with that. We suffered in quality during COVID because we weren't getting everything we wanted, and we just, you get the restaurant as an owner that you tolerate. And I just went into these gas stations where the owner wasn't putting up with a bunch of stuff, and they were not tolerating it, and they were getting a great result. And I said, I need to apply these lessons in my own business. And now I'm going to Vegas next week to teach a class on exactly that.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so the class in Vegas is about not my restaurant, but what I learned from those guys that I took back. And I mean, dude, some of these places are the best at what they do. Top 5 burger place, it's in a gas station.
Where?
NFA Burgers, Billy Kramer, who's become a friend of mine. I've gotten to be friends with some of these guys. And he keeps telling me it stands for no fooling around, but I got an idea it's that other F instead of fooling. He has that kind of personality that I have never asked him. But I asked him, I said, give me a quote for these guys that I'm going to speak to And he said, my quote is, I'd rather do one thing really well than a bunch of things poorly.
Yeah.
And which is exactly what I've applied to my own restaurant before he ever told me that, because that was the kind of the lesson I got. But some of the best barbecue in America is called Kansas City Joe's. That's in a gas station. The number one barbecue in Kansas City is in a gas station.
That's wild.
It is.
Or do you think they're efficient because they're in a gas station? You don't have a lot of square footage typically. You kind of have no other choice.
There's a lot of aspects to this, but I think one of the cool things I've seen happening is like with Billy and NFA Burger, he was kind of like me. He just really loved burgers.
Yeah.
And he started going around and checking out all these burger places. And then he bought him a little food trailer. And I think the next step up for him was going in with a gas station guy, because restaurants are so highly expensive to get into. But if you go in a gas station, the kitchen they have is just like my kitchen. That's the same equipment. So why are they just frying chicken? You know, and we fry chicken every day. Nothing against fried chicken, but it's like they have the option of doing a lot more. And you see more and more of these guys that are really in love with food going, this is a better model than a restaurant, because the gas station is paying all the overhead. All the restaurant has to do is carry itself. But what's happened in the last 10 years is gas station food has doubled in terms of the percentage of sales in gas stations. But more than that, the profit has more than doubled. So it's become a really big piece of the profit for gas station owners. So they're taking it seriously now. So in the past, where they were like, let's cook some burgers at 6 in the morning, wrap them in saran wrap, throw them in the hot box, and at lunch they're terrible, you know.
Yeah.
Now they're like, let's cook them to order, make smash burgers out of them. And basically he's a lot like In-N-Out. His burgers are real similar to In-N-Out.
Yeah.
But it's not just Billy, but it's all over. I found that.
What's some of the craziest stuff you've seen on the road? Because you told me, you're like, yeah, man, I like to drive to places, and that's the gas station food review is kind of a hobby, kind of self-promotion, it's a lot of different things.
It is.
But you're talking about driving and like not listening to music and just turning the radio off and being able to think for hours at a time without having to, because dude, you got a lot going on. Even not being a judge anymore, you have a ton going on.
I do.
Just doing one of these things is a lot. Yeah. And then doing all of them at the same time, like what's something you learned about others or maybe yourself being on the road and spending that much time? I'd kill for that kind of meditation and self-reflection time.
It really is. Willie Nelson very famously wrote like 5 number 1 hits in West Texas driving around one week. Like crazy.
Yeah.
For Patsy Cline. I mean, it was Red-Headed Stranger or something like that. But it was about 5 of them. And he did it driving. And I heard him on somebody's radio show, and they said, actually, there's science behind this. When you're doing something like what you're doing right now, which is driving the combine, there's a piece of your brain that's occupied with that allows your creative side to go a little more wild, if you will. Yeah. So it's a great way to write songs. But I think also, like you just said, if you're an entrepreneur, all you are is a fireman. Your job is to solve problems.
Yeah.
Really, my job is not to drive the combine. I should be solving problems. I like driving the combine. That's why I do it a lot. But my nephew would much rather do it than me, But getting on the road every now and then when you're right in front of the fire or right in front of the trees, you can't see the forest from the trees, A lot of times it's hard to see the big picture. And for me, getting on the road, driving 4 hours to a gas station, turning the radio off, I do a lot of problem solving on those days. And that's been a big piece of my love for that. And it's, and then I get there and get to have a terrible meal for my health, but a great meal for my taste buds,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's always fun. And it's also the reason I think I really hadn't pressed hard to have somebody go with me. I've done that a few times, but I really enjoy the alone time. Odd as that sounds, but I really have. So I've kind of like, I'm at this point where I know I probably need some help, but I've kind of resisted that change to a degree because I think I could probably grow this a little bigger than what it is. I don't know.
Absolutely, you could. Well, I know a video guy if you ever need help.
But what's his name?
He's named after a town in the Delta. Yeah, you could definitely take it super far. That's why it's really perfect. I kind of like, you're talking about like, man, how do you edit things? We kind of workshopped a little bit over the phone, and I was like, man, I don't know if I would really change anything, honestly. It's really more just stick with it and keep doing. I think you're onto something. You know, I think people respond to that too, not having, it's definitely something you could sell as a show eventually, the Food Network or something.
I
but
think
the
so.
way it is right now, just leave it, you know? I like how it is. I like watching them there. It's engaging, it's fun. You add some slow motion B-roll of the food and then that's literally pretty much it.
Yeah, the review's been fun. I've met a lot of good people, but I do most of the time don't tell people I'm coming. So most of the time it's, I film by myself, I go in. Every now and then somebody will recognize me when I come in a place, and every now and then they'll say, you kind of they'll figure out something's up, and I'll be like, well, I'm fixing to review it. But I do like the idea of having the consumer's view of it rather than them going, oh, we're making this especially for this food reviewer guy out here. The downside is now I'm going sometimes and actually going so far I'm spending the night. And so I'll go and they'll be like, well, we only do that on Thursdays. I do feel like
you need some intel.
I may need some, we've even talked about just going and break down and tell them we're coming, you know. Say, hey, we're coming, but we don't want special treatment and I want to pay. I do feel really moved. I don't want anybody to give me the food. Not because I don't want to be swayed. I just know what these businesses have been through in the last 5 years, dude. It's been hard.
Yeah.
For everybody. But I think especially the restaurant business was hit hard during COVID. So I want to make, and that was another thing. I started right pre-COVID. Then COVID happens. And I'm like, now I'm in this position where I can kind of lend a hand. It was weird, man. I'll go give a place a good review and people will show up.
That's cool.
Which to me is crazy.
Yeah, right.
Like that many people value my opinion. Sometimes I don't value my opinion, you know?
Isn't that weird?
It really is, dude.
How do you find the places? Like, because for me, I go, yeah, if I want to know which gas station food I should get in Oxford, I would just watch your stuff. How do you find the place?
So at first, I knew a lot of good places. So, you know, I was hitting all the places within 30 miles of home. Well, when I got all those done, I made the circle bigger. You know, I just kept making the circle bigger. Well, by that time, I had a pretty good following. And so now I can say, hey, guys, I'm going to Nashville.
Yeah.
What's good? And 5 people said Huff's Grocery in Franklin. Now, that's not actually in Nashville. But if 5 people, I put Nashville, and 5 people go, well, if he's going to be in Nashville, he's got to go to Huff's Grocery. I'm going to Huff's Grocery. And Huff's Grocery is a 130-year-old, really everything store. General store is really what it is. Yeah. They still have the rack that rolls back and forth where they can climb up and get the hats off the top shelf with hats on it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I went there and filmed actually, and came home and the video didn't turn out, so I got to go back, which is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, let's say it.
I'm not terribly upset about it. I was actually in Nashville for something else, so it kind of worked out. And come to find out, there's like 5 100-year-old general stores that are gas stations in the Franklin, Tennessee area. But I go to, this is a fun one. I went to Key West, Florida, and several people said, you've got to go to Dion's Quick Chick. That's where everybody goes when they get drunk to buy fried chicken. So
sounds amazing.
So my daughter and I drive 1,100 miles in my truck, dive in Key West, have dinner, and then on the way out, like at 10, 11 o'clock at night, stop in the dark, buy fried chicken, film under the lights of the gas station, and a drunk guy coming to buy chicken comes in and runs into my truck while we're filming.
Oh, wow.
On camera. You can see him come around, and then you see the camera go back and forth when he hits the truck. Somebody just hit my truck. And I just go, somebody just hit my truck. We're going to have to take a minute.
We just literally had a car accident on camera.
Didn't do any damage either. He hit the tire on the truck. But I was like, okay, that's exactly what everybody told me. He was there to he'd been drinking.
What a story.
Yeah. So there's some good ones like that.
Well, tell me about Drew, your hometown. I heard of Drew, Mississippi. I watched the Mannings 30 for 30.
That's a good one. So Drew was the name of one of the founder's daughters who had recently passed away.
Oh, wow.
And she died of fever. And so they decided to name the town after her. You know, I had a great childhood in Drew. Some people have great memories of the town. Some people don't. Archie called it a Mayberry. I think a lot of people would have used that term back in the 60s and 70s. You can't talk about Drew without talking about it was a sharecropper town. In 1950, there was more cotton gin in Drew than anywhere in the world.
That's crazy.
And that was part of that sharecropper thing, which was a caste system, really. And so some people may not have as good a memory as I had. I grew up in past that all that was over with by the time I was up and coming. But even in the 80s, I remember Drew being economically really kind of well off. And then in the 90s, it just, a series of things happened. We had several fires that almost burnt the entire downtown down. A lot of plant closures. There were 2 plants in Drew, both closed. There were just a lot of things happening. And then, of course, as farming mechanized, there wasn't the job for people that there had been, which is good or bad, depending on how you look at it. I mean, some of those hard jobs nobody want to do anymore anyway.
Yeah.
But the economic reality was that Drew never kind of refound itself after that. So today, Drew is kind of a shell of what it used to be, but it's still, I told somebody in an interview one time, you can take the boy out of Drew, but you can't take Drew out of the boy. Everything I've got is a product of Drew. So I felt like as long as I live here, I got to try to do something to make it better than what I found it.
What's something about small town Mississippi, especially in the Delta? We don't have the best past, and that's what a lot of people want to talk about. But we're in 2024, and we've talked about this, offline, but how do you reconcile the past with where you want to go in the future and bring prosperity to a small town like Drew? Because there's a ton of Drews.
I don't know
not
that I
just
have
in
the
Mississippi either. It's all across the country.
Well, one of the knee-jerk reactions, I think you use the term reconcile, and I use that same term, but always, you reconcile a bank statement. This isn't a bank statement. Whatever way you think about it, you have to be willing to sit down across the table from people and try to come up with a better solution. And there's people on both sides of any issue, it doesn't matter what issue we brought up, that are just not willing to do that right now. Yeah. And that's a nationwide thing. Wright Thompson says the Mississippi Delta, particularly Drew's, a mirror, not a unique thing. And so what's happening in Drew is the same thing that's happening all over the country is the scary thing. I mean, we're going to have to reinvent some stuff. I told you earlier, I'm a capitalist. I'm a big time, I don't like talking politics, but I'm probably really, I'm not really a Republican. I'm not really a Democrat. I'm probably more libertarian. Live and let live. The government should let me live and let live too. Kind of stay out of my business, So I'm a smaller government thought kind of person, but at the same time, right now the Delta wouldn't be there if it wasn't for a big federal government.
Right.
I mean, the amount of government assistance to farmers, to business owners. I've been running that business for 20 years. Without any help. Got help during COVID from the government, but that was one of my goals. Was I want to prove through my business that you can have a profitable business in a town like Drew if you're a good enough business person. I think maybe my fault in thinking that was that even though I've proven that right, that I could have gone to a bigger town and made a whole lot more money, and maybe had a better life for my children and my family. If I had gone somewhere else and done exactly what I did in Drew and put in the same effort. And that's the thing, because when I tell people, well, you can do it, look, I did it. People say, yeah, but if you put that same effort into Hattiesburg, what would my return be? Right. And that's the thing that keeps people from coming back to Drew. You've got to have somebody that loves it and is there for something other than financial return. That's for sure. But man, as far as the big picture, I just don't know. I've been fighting it for all my adult life, and I've got some wins there, but at the same time, it's like, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. I don't know. But I'm just going to keep on trying.
Yeah, why? Yeah, you have to. No other choice. This is funny. This is the first time we've met in person. Yeah. We talked on the phone a few times. I've seen your stuff online. So when you see other people's videos online, you do kind of get a sense of, especially when you post as much as you do, of who they are. All right, so I got to take this out of gear, right? Do I slow the engine down?
Yeah, slow it down until he gets over here, and then when he gets here, we'll speed the engine back up.
Yeah, all right. And definitely don't press that button yet. But, you're a passionate guy, man, and passion isn't common. When you find that in common with someone else, it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to get along great.
Well, it's funny you use that word. Every video I end with live life with passion. I've corrected several people, because that to me doesn't mean find your passion. It means whatever situation you find yourself in, find a way to be passionate about that. Because even if it's a bad situation, the way you get out of it is through it, not around it usually.
Yeah.
All right, speed this throttle up first.
Here?
Yep, all the way. There you go. That's it.
There we go.
But yeah, you know, what do they say? Cows run away from the storm and get killed by it, and buffalo run through into the storm. I love the line too, embrace the suck. So you hear the word live life with passion, it really means do the hard things passionately, and that's how you find success. But yeah, I think passion, I wanted my life to be a passionate life. Bloom where you're planted.
It's a blessing to be able to work hard and do things that are difficult and still enjoy it, because you know you're supposed to be doing it, you know? Not everybody gets to experience that.
I tell my daughters, you know, I've got a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old, one that's fixing to be 25 in December. And she has just started her professional job. But when she was struggling with what is she going to be, right, when she grows up, I'm like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know, I think I definitely have probably an adult ADHD or whatever. You're good. Yeah, let him drive out from under it first, because it will catch the back if you're not careful. There you go. You're good, man.
Which one? This one?
Yep. And then now y'all got to slow it down, put the header back in gear, speed up, we're good to go. But yeah, I definitely, it's funny because I'm 51 and I really thought, oh, I'm going to die farming. And I might still be farming when I die. I don't ever want to quit work. I love what I do. I mean, I don't play golf. I do a little bit of hunting. Just don't have a lot. I mean, I guess the hobby for me would probably be the gas station review. But even that, like, I'm trying to monetize in a way. I love business. It's just fascinating to me, and trying to figure out and solve these problems. It's like, you know, some people like to put a puzzle together. I like to figure out a puzzle, if it's financial or business or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know that I figured it out yet.
Yeah.
For myself. And I don't know, I think when I figured it out, you know, a ripe fruit is dead fruit. It's falling off the tree, it's over for that. I'm not ready to have it figured out, because I guess I'm afraid that's the end, maybe. And I don't want to think that it's the end for me. So I don't think there's anything wrong with not having it figured out.
Yeah.
At some certain age. So much pressure on these kids too, man, that, oh, you got to know where you're going to college, what you're going to major in, and set yourself up for the rest of your life. And it's like, man, I think about how stupid I was at 17 or 18, and you're asking these 17, 18-year-olds to make a decision that's going to affect the rest of their life, and we wonder why colleges kind of struggle to recruit now.
I didn't figure anything out till 31. Took me forever. So I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, but yeah, no, you're right, man. I think there's always going to be something else, though. There's always going to be another frontier. So there is comfort in that, but
Oh, for sure.
I think it's, I totally get what you mean, though.
When my 25-year-old was in a junior in high school, we went to Mississippi State and Mark Keenum spoke. And if you ever heard Mark Keenum, a lot of people never heard him speak. He's a very, very smart, very competent human being. He's president of Mississippi State University. Yeah. And he said the real reality is why it's so hard to choose a major is because we're training children for jobs that we don't even know what they're going to be. They don't even exist yet.
Yeah.
And he said, if you came in here in the 70s and we were going to, you know, nobody was programming computers, but we were training people for that and didn't realize that. He said, so that's the challenge that we all face is in 25 years. I mean, who would have thought, oh, I work in social media. What the hell does that even mean? MySpace?
Yeah. I'm gonna make videos. Oh, movies.
Right.
No,
like that's a job now. People are making money. People playing video games are making millions of dollars a month on Twitch. And like if my dad didn't live to see that, but he died in 2006. The iPhone came out in 2007. That's not that long ago, dude.
no, it's not long at all.
The iPhone's still a teenager. The iPhone's not old enough to drink. I think about that all the time. Not old enough. Anybody that's old enough to drink is older than the iPhone. Dude, we're in a weird world. But I love it. People are so much better off. I think there's a lack of gratitude. We were talking about earlier, I don't remember if this was on or off video, but the uncabbed combine. And you think about this, the people that drove an uncabbed combine probably did not have a shower in the house. They might have had a bath, they might have had running water. But I forget what comedian it was talking about that. He's like, 100 years ago, the richest people on the face of the earth did not know what a hot shower was. That's wild, dude. We have so many things to be thankful for.
Life is really good. It's the easiest it's ever been to be alive.
The early 1900s was hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Nobody had air conditioning. I mean, it was just hard for everybody. So I'm very thankful. Even in Drew, it's way easier in Drew now than it was in a metropolitan city 125 years ago. I love to write, and what I did not know, and they don't explain this to people when they're in school, learning literature and learning to write is about problem solving. And the greatest thing I had, you think, oh, math is going to be the most important thing, but probably the most important teacher I had was that one that I showed you with the bridge ladies, Bobby Dubard, and she taught me how to think for myself through writing term papers for her. And I owe a big gratitude there, because I think a lot of the way that I approach life comes from that. She was fun too, man. We'd have great discussions in class, and we would talk politics, and she would challenge you. You said, well, my daddy said this. Well, why did your daddy say that? And I didn't realize at the time that's part of the class. I just thought we were talking. And now I look back and go, oh, that was actually part of what she was teaching us, is to think for ourselves. And she challenged you. So but it was a lot of fun. And young men should be told that, because I think they look down on literature. That's what this is. You're actually learning how to think for yourself, and that's going to help you so much in the future.
This is awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you showing insane hospitality, and I think we should go get some fried chicken probably at the
Yeah, what time is it? We may have to text them and tell them, oh, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to say, save some fried chicken. I'm actually texting from the show. We're texting for fried chicken right now.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it is important.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be able to say I drove a combine.
Dude, you cut like almost 1,000 bushels of soybeans today.
That's a lot, man.
Well, by the time we get back, you'll have a whole truckload of soybeans cut. Isn't that crazy?
This is super crazy. But how can people follow you, social media, everything? We'll link everything below, but
Stafford Shurden. My father-in-law told me a good lesson when I was first starting out on my own. He said, just name your business after yourself, and everybody will know who they're doing business with. If you're going to be a small business, it's not the worst thing. So when I started doing the social media stuff, I just changed all the names on all my different pages, just Stafford Shurden. So it's no matter how you look me up, whatever your favorite social media is, it's just my name.
It's a good name, man.
I'm proud of it.